Welcome to the Artist Roundtable. My name is Anne-Marie Melito, and I have 4 senior artists with me. These students have all taken art for the past 4 years in one capacity or another. We'll start down at the end of the table with Mairead, who has her 3D pieces that she's going to share with us. And next to me is Abby. Abby has some 2D pieces that she's going to share with us. And Bridget, to my left. And last but certainly not least, the unexpected artist, Anthony. Anthony's our unexpected artist for the day. And the reason is because his repertoire is a little broader than just art, visual art that is. He, as you ladies know, I'm sure, is the captain of the soccer team and hopes to play soccer next year in college. So anyway, I'm going to ask you guys some questions as we discussed previous, and you're going to answer them to the best you can. So Anthony, what brings you, the unexpected artist, to art?
Well, in freshman year, I just kind of picked it because I didn't know what else to pick. But as I went through art every year, it's fun for me, and it's kind of a stress relief with soccer during the season. Like when I had it in the morning the last 2 years, so it was just fun in the morning. It wasn't like I didn't have to stress about any like homework or anything in the class.
Very good. Bridget, what do you think? Why do you keep coming back to art?
Well, I think it's like the one non-academic class that I really have, and I really like that because it's kind of like a break throughout the day to not really use like my brain as much and just to like do something visually and work on my creativity, which I like.
Do you really think you don't use your brain in art?
No, I do.
Or
Sorry, I didn't mean that.
A little bit different.
No, it's just a different way to like do schoolwork, I guess, because now it's like I kind of have more freedom to do what I want with pieces instead of like doing things that other people tell me every day. It's kind of like I get to do my own projects, which is nice.
Very good. Abby, what do you think?
Well, I mean, ever since I was little, I was always drawing and painting as much as I could. And so to be able to incorporate that every day into my school day and take a break from academics like everyone else has said, I think it's really nice and just get to pursue something I like to do every day.
Very good. Mairead, you've taken a little different path because you kind of veered off this year and did, well, actually last year you did 3D art. So why don't you talk a little bit about that and what 3D art, like how it has given you freedom or whatever?
So for the first 2 years, I took 2D art, and it was with the other teachers, not Miss Melito. And a couple of my friends had mentioned that they had taken 3D art and that it was fun, and that like some of the projects that I did in 2D, I didn't like so much of a plan. I like to kind of wing it and go off of like my own ideas. And I think doing 3D art was like I was able to pick my own projects and really like use my hands and get down and do like what I like to do.
Well, I have to say I think that you've done pretty well, and I know you know that I mentioned last year a few times to you that I thought you really knocked it out of the park with 3D art. Talk about the medium a little bit, if you don't mind. What's different? What's different?
I think it's different is it's not like drawing on paper. I think ever since I was little, you were able to like draw. You could always take paper and just draw like cartoon, what I like to do when I was little. So with the 3D art, it was a really big challenge because it wasn't something I was used to. You know, like when you're little, you can play with like Play-Doh, but this is something that you actually have to like work towards, and you always save your work, and every day you're working up to something bigger and bigger. So it's not just something you can always just like throw away.
Very good. I feel like 3D art is more stuff oriented than, don't you guys think?
Yeah.
Because you're playing with clay, not playing with clay. I mean, you do some really cute creations, which we'll show in a couple of minutes. So I guess is your favorite medium, would you say, working in clay? Or now you're back to 2D art this year, so how does that feel?
I like being back to 2D as well. I kind of wish I did 3D because, like I was saying, it's like the stuff I like just doing kind of like random things, and I like drawing, but I figured it would be nice to go back to my roots.
Well, very good. Well, I'm glad you're back. Let's see. What's your biggest struggle in Bridget in art? What do you think?
I think
what are the issues that you face?
Well, I'm really hard on myself, I think, as an artist, and it's hard for me to kind of like put down the pencil or like the paintbrush and just like stop and look at it and say, okay, I'm done. Because I'm very critical of what I do and I'm very detail oriented, so I kind of get caught up in that sometimes. But yeah, so I'd say just like actually finishing something and like saying that it's completely done and being happy with it is one of my struggles.
I think that's the ticket, being happy with it right there. That's like, artists, I buy other artists' work because I'm not always happy with my own. So what's your favorite medium?
I like color pencil the best. I like using the Prismacolors a lot.
You think so?
Because you have more control that way, and with paint, I don't really have as much control. And I can kind of do what I want with my color pencils and like layer it and do shading, and that's kind of like my favorite thing to do, I think.
Very good. Anthony, I'm going to go back and torture you for a little bit.
Well-
So what do you think? Tell me about, what's your favorite medium? I already know, but you're going to have to tell
Colored
us.
pencil, but I struggle with, I'm pretty good at like getting the shapes down, but once I get the shapes down, I can't get it to like look 3D like on the paper.
Okay. You have your soccer player there, your self-portrait from last year. How did you feel about that piece?
I liked it. It was all right. At the beginning, I kind of struggled with it because I didn't like I said, I didn't get the shading down, and the hand was probably the most challenging part. But
You
this
nailed
was,
it, though.
Yeah.
It looks pretty good. And what do you think? What brings the art to life? So what? And I know where you're at, obviously, in your career, your art journey, if you will. But what makes the art pop off the paper? Do you know?
Like the colors in the in my jersey. I didn't really get like the actual colors that good, but I think I did pretty well.
Oh, I think you did a nice job. And of course, the red and the green being complementary
Yeah.
colors bring it to life a little bit. And the darks, if you were to even revisit that piece and go a little bit darker, I feel like it still has the chance of even being more powerful.
Yeah.
However, what do we know about art? Sometimes you just have to back away, right? And just say, okay, I'm done. Because especially with colored pencil, tell me about colored pencil. Once you do it, you own it, right?
Yeah.
So it does pose, that's why I like painting myself, because it's not done until you say it's done. So anyway, all right. Abby, why don't you pull your self-portrait up here, and let's take a look at that and talk about that a minute.
All right.
So what do you think about this piece?
This is probably my favorite pieces I've ever done. I kind of struggled with it at the beginning because I couldn't get the exact colors I was looking for, but like you said, with paint, you can kind of keep going with it, unlike colored pencils, so I was able to redo all the parts I didn't like, and I mean, the way it turned out, I really like, so.
Me too, I think you did a nice job.
Thanks.
Mairead, talk about your clay pieces. I realize this is totally out in left field somewhere, but I think it's kind of fun to be a little different and to celebrate, a different medium. Mm-hmm. So why don't you talk about those pieces and explain to these guys what the, what the situation was and how you got to where you are with those.
Sure. So for the moose, I did. Our project was to make bobbleheads, and this is it right here. I think everybody in that class, like, I would look around and I'd see a lot of pieces that weren't almost as challenging, and I thought it would be better to do something that, like, was more difficult and more detailed. So I actually did this because my cousin's favorite animal is a moose, so I told him I was going to make it for him, and I looked up pictures of different like bobblehead styles, and I decided to like make the body more relaxed. For the hippo, it's actually a piggy bank. So our project was clay pinch pots, so you had to take 2 pinch pots and put them together and then add on to it. So for this, I really struggled with at first. I couldn't get like the snout to stay up, like it would always fall down or like sink, so it kind of looked like it was like closing its mouth, and I really wanted it to be able to like be able to see inside and the work inside as well.
Very good, thank you. And you are really very skilled at finishing the pieces. You're not afraid of color, and that's really cool. Bridget, let's put your self-portrait up here, if you don't mind. So Bridget actually went with colored pencil also, and you can see that she's a little more daring than Anthony. So let's talk about this. it's the same palette though, which is really kind of funny. Why don't we move that cup,
Yeah.
push that cup back, and then we can kind of discuss both of those pieces. You guys can see those okay, right? All right, so talk to me, please.
Well, I wanted to do a side profile for my self-portrait and color pencil just because I thought it looked really intense, and like this picture I just really liked, and I didn't really find a lot of other pictures that were as different because I know that a lot of people did like selfies and that kind of stuff, and I wanted to kind of veer off and do my own thing. And so I like this picture a lot because it's very intense, and I don't know, I really like the way that like my cheekbone was and like how you can kind of see my side profile. Yeah.
You do realize how difficult that was to execute,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and in colored pencil, like we said, you can't take away. I'm with you, Abby. I love painting, so because I would have really fussed with that.
Yeah.
So, you know, and Anthony, again, I think he did a fine job, but you are definitely not afraid of the dark, not afraid to go, you know, to that bold place. And I know that you can see it when you look at other people's art, and hopefully, even though you will be a soccer star in college, you might take an art class or so and, you know, keep the party going, because I think you do okay. So let's see. Why don't we do, we're going to kind of critique a little bit. So let's talk, I just did with that. Let's take a look at Abby's. Why don't we scoot these over, and we'll take a look at Abby's portrait, put her up here in the middle, and see, is there anything that she could have done? And we'll go around the table. First of all, talk about what you like. We're going to use the hot and cold protocol. Talk about what you like and maybe something that she could still work on a little bit, if anything. Then maybe not. How about you? We'll start with, since it's your piece.
All right, well, one thing that I kind of struggled with while I was painting it, and still I always look at it, is I think that I didn't use enough colors to shade my face correctly, and I think that it just looks kind of bland and that I could have probably added a lot more.
Okay, very good. What do you like about it?
My favorite part would probably be the headband and the hair.
Okay, very good. Mairead, what do you think?
So it was funny because going into 3D art every day, I'd always stop and look around at everybody's pieces. And one day, I think I sent you a picture, I mentioned it, and I said I liked it, and I knew Abby was struggling at the time. But I really like the way the hair turned out, at the bottom. It's the shading and stuff, and all the colors really brings the hair to life. So it looks like it could be real. I wouldn't really fix anything. I think it's your art, so it looks really good. Maybe if one thing at the top, you could have included more of the colors that you did at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. Bridget, how about you?
I agree with the thing about the hair. I really like the hair, especially at the bottom, how it turned out and all of the different colors that you used. And I think that looks really, really good. I think that's the best part of the piece. And I don't know, I think this is a great self-portrait. I don't really know what I would change, but I know what you're saying about the face and how you could have used more colors, but I do like how you used the blue to do the highlights and the lowlights of the face, and I think that part of it is really cool. So yeah, maybe just add maybe a little bit more color to the forehead or above the eyebrows or to the hands or something, yeah. But I really like it. Thank you.
Very good. Anthony, what do you think?
I think the eyes look really cool with the color, and they look really realistic. And the sweatshirt, it looks like the strings they look real. The nice
I agree.
colors.
I love the sweatshirt. That's my favorite part, is the
Yeah.
sweatshirt. Go ahead, anything else?
No, that's it.
I think that I agree with what you're saying about the face, but again, sometimes with art, you just have to be done. And, the next time you undertake a portrait, again, you too maybe will take the plunge in college and take an art class and knock it out of the park. I think it's beautiful. And I know that you wanted to block part of your face. And I try to give you guys carte blanche with self-portraits, especially in upper level art, because it's got to be a personal thing. Portraits are probably the most difficult thing that you'll do, especially of yourself. So was it easier having the face cut off, or did that make it more difficult?
I thought that covering my nose and my mouth would make it easier because sophomore year when I was working on my self-portrait, that's what I struggled with the most. But I really went for trying to make the sweatshirt as realistic as I possibly could, which ended up taking probably more time than it would have to paint a mouth and nose. But I like how it turned out. I mean, it took me a long time, but I think it wasn't less difficult, but it gave me the result that I wanted. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. And sometimes we try and go for something that we think is going to be easier, and it actually winds up being more of a chore. So I think that we're in pretty good shape. I kind of thought of something fun to do, and I hope you guys think it's fun to do. And I don't mean to be certainly torturing Anthony any more than necessary. However, I thought he finished his the chess piece. Can you move that for me, sweetie? Thank you. He finished his chess piece, and we chatted about it briefly. And what I decided to do, in case we had more time, is to show Anthony's chess piece. And obviously he's skilled. I mean, you guys are all skilled. That's why you're here. But talk about maybe some other ones. And these artists are not all here. One of them is. We're going to scoot that over just a little and see how we can get Anthony's piece, which is this one, to bring it to life. So let's talk about these pieces and see what we think. So what do you think? Talk about Anthony's first. I'm going to start with you, Mairead, since one of yours is one of these.
I actually like the way you did it. I like how you chose a different shape, because I think a lot of people followed the picture that Miss Melito had sent us. Not obviously, but I think it would be nice if you include a little bit more shading. I'm not sure what the original picture looked like, but I think like more detail always makes it more yours. But I think it looks cool.
Me too. You definitely have an ability to put the shapes down on paper. Without a doubt, that's your strength. And so I just feel that your techniques with shading, as you can see these other students, even this one that's a little bit lighter, were really bold. So, and sometimes actually to get to that point, you can practice value scales. I know it's like drills in soccer or football or whatever. It's kind of a pain in the neck. But when you have that value scale in front of you, it forces you to actually see the dark and the light on paper. So I love the fact that you kind of pushed the envelope and chose something different. This is beautifully done. But these here, especially these three that are really dark, they chose the darkest value and then went up to white, which really gives it a lot of life. What do you think, Eb?
Well, like both of you just said, I like that you did a different shape than the rest of them. But I think that compared to all the other ones out on the table, yours looks more simple, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It probably could just use a little bit more shading, especially towards the top. Like there's more shading at the bottom than at the top, so if you maybe was a little more even throughout, it would look better.
Yeah. What do you think, Bridget?
I agree about the shading thing for sure, and I do like how you picked a different chess piece just because it's very original and it makes it stand out more. And I think that the way that, like Ms. Melito said, the way that you put like the shapes down is really, really good, and you have a really good direction for that stuff. But yeah, definitely just go in with a little bit more in the color in the graphite and make it a little bit more 3D, because I think it would look really good if you added more shading.
What do you think about it, honey?
Well, I did it pretty quickly this morning.
We didn't want to really tell anybody that, but okay.
But yeah, I like the idea of it not being the same chess piece as everyone else. So I looked up a picture and found that one.
Well, and again, in advanced art, I mean, you have to be given some freedom. If everything was dictated to you, that's not really fun. I know we do the wine bottle every year, I know. But that actually shows, it shows, as a matter of fact, let's talk about that for a minute, because we have a little bit of time left. You did a wine bottle last year, and you did one this year. What did you think? Did you compare the two?
I did not yet, but I think this year's was a lot better than last year's, because the shape was a lot better, and you taught me how to shade more than my previous art classes.
Well, that's good. Very good. What'd you think? about your
I looked
wine
at the
bottle?
progression between mine and last year's. I couldn't find the one from sophomore year, but I think there's definitely like an improvement in my skills, and I like how I shaded a lot more and added more details. It didn't really come out the way that I really wanted it to. I wish it was a little bit, I'm a lefty, so it gets smudged, but
Me too.
yeah. But I think the shape of it was really good this year, and I like how I added more details and more shading into it, and I could definitely see an improvement.
So do you think it's worthwhile? It is worthwhile to do it every year.
Yeah.
So you can
Oh, I think it's
see
cool.
the
Yeah.
progression. And I know it's when I bring them out, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, here we go again. But it's the only thing that we really do together that's pretty much all the same.
Yeah.
I know perspective here and there, but what do you think?
About the wine bottles? I think with the wine bottles, it's really cool to see your own progression over the years, but seeing everyone else's is pretty cool too. And also, since you only have a few of those wine bottles, we're all drawing it from a different angle, but it's the same central thing. So I think that's kind of cool to see how everyone else interprets it and how every drawing of the same wine bottle turns out so different.
Yeah, I agree. And Mairead, I know that you didn't, I don't have one from last year because you hung out with me in 3D art. Would you change anything about your self-portrait?
The hair, for sure. That's the thing that I did last. I think I was done with it. When I was towards the end, I got really frustrated with it, I think, because I had been working on it for so long. The hair definitely needs more detail, I think, because compared to like the face, it doesn't really have as much shading and stuff, and the colors could be a little bit more defined, but that's really the only thing. I really like this. I think it took me a couple years to like it, because before, when I finished it, I didn't really think anything of it, but now it's like, I think it's the favorite piece that I've done so far.
Don't you guys think that happens though? When you finish with a piece, you're like, oh my goodness, get this away from
I've
me.
been looking at it for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I did my self-portrait last year, I can remember
Oh, yeah.
showing Larry pictures of it, and you know, and then when I brought it home, he thought, wow, so it's hanging in my den.
Yeah.
Anyway, Anthony, would you change anything on that?
Yeah, probably. I would change the background and make it a little darker, like or a little more like a solid color instead
Okay.
of like. I mean, it kind of looks like it makes the impression of grass in the back because that's what the picture I used was.
I actually
But-
really like it,
Yeah.
and that's, you know, and I do feel that the angle was very difficult. Again,
Yeah,
I
it
think
was.
you took a page out of Abby's book and thought, well, if I do a profile, I only have to do half the face. When in essence, the profile is more difficult to do than straight on. At least you have balance if you're doing it straight on. Well, in any case, I think that about wraps up our first edition of the Artist Roundtable. And I want to thank you guys for joining me and being bold enough to take this endeavor on. And that's it. Thank you very much for joining us. Melito out.